You think you know this bear. You've seen him on cereal boxes, on pajamas, in bright cartoons where the sun always shines. A chubby, silly little bear who loves honey. But you don't know where he came from. You don't know that the 100-acre wood wasn't built for children. It was built as a bunker. It was a bomb shelter for the mind. The man who invented Winnie the Pooh didn't write those stories to entertain his son. He wrote them to save himself. He was trying to drown out a scream that had been ringing in his ears for 10 years, a scream from the mud of France. Today is January 18th, the birthday of Alan Milne, and I want to tell you the true story. The story of how the kindest fairy tale in the world grew out of the worst horror humanity has ever seen. Let's go back. Not to a nursery, but to the Western Front. 1916, the Battle of the Somme. If you know your history, you know that name. It was hell on earth. Alan Milne wasn't built for war. He was a gentle intellectual, a humorist, a man who wore tweed suits and wrote funny articles for Punch magazine. He loved cricket. He hated noise. But in 1916, he found himself in a trench knee-deep in water, surrounded by rats and the dead. He was a signals officer. His job was to fix telephone lines when they were blown up by artillery. That meant crawling out into the mud while machine guns tore the air apart above his head. One day, a shell exploded right next to him. The blast wave slammed his face into the dirt. When he looked up, the world had changed. He saw things he never spoke about. He heard a sound that would never leave him, the buzzing of millions of flies over the battlefield. He came home physically whole. He had his arms and legs, but inside, Alan Milne was shattered glass. Today, we call it PTSD. Back then, they called it shell shock. The prescription was simple. Pull yourself together, man. Stop whining. But he couldn't. He tried to go back to his normal life in London, the roaring 20s, champagne, jazz, parties. But when a balloon popped at a party, bang! Alan Milne would drop to the floor, covering his head, shaking, sweating. The sound of bees in a garden made him panic because it sounded like those flies at the Somme. He became cold, distant. He hated loud noises. He hated unpredictability. And into this broken world came a child, Christopher Robin Milne. Now, looking at the books, you imagine a perfect family. The loving father, the doting mother, the happy boy. But the reality was cold enough to freeze water. Alan didn't know how to be a father. He was terrified of the boy. Children are loud. Children are chaotic. Alan just wanted silence. And the mother, Daphne Milne? This is the part nobody talks about. Daphne was a socialite. She was a creature of the jazz age. She laughed too loud and drank too much. She had a difficult birth with Christopher, and quite frankly, she decided she didn't want to be a mother. It was too much work. It ruined her figure. It stopped the party. She was the one who bought the teddy bear from Harrods, not out of love, but to keep the boy occupied. So, who raised the boy? A nanny. Olive. Christopher called her New. She was the only warmth in that house. She was the one who tucked him in. She was the one who dried his tears. His parents were like statues, figures on a shelf. The father was locked in his office, fighting his demons. The mother was out at the club, fighting her boredom. Christopher grew up lonely in a big house, playing with a stuffed bear because the bear was the only friend who wouldn't leave him. Alan Milne watched his son from the window. He saw the boy talking to the bear, to a piglet, to a donkey, and something clicked in the writer's mind. He couldn't play with his son in real life. It was too messy, too emotional. But he could play with him on paper. He began to write. But look at the world he created. The 100 Acre Wood. It's not just a forest. It is a utopia for a traumatized soldier. Think about it. In the 100 Acre Wood, nobody dies. In the 100 Acre Wood, nobody has a job or a boss. There are no adults giving orders to go over the top. There are no loud noises except for a popped balloon, and even that is just a funny mistake, not a bomb. It is a world without conflict. The worst thing that happens is a bit of rain or getting stuck in a doorway. It was the world Alan Milne desperately needed, a world of safety. Look at the characters through the eyes of a psychologist. They aren't just animals. They are fragments of Milne's own broken psyche. Winnie the Pooh is comfort. He is simple, safe pleasure food. He has no anxiety. He is the peace Milne wanted. Piglet is the anxiety. Piglet is the shell shock. He is terrified of everything, the wind, the dark, sudden noises. Piglet is the soldier in the trench. But in the book, Piglet is always safe. He is always rescued. Milne was rescuing his own fear. Eeyore is the depression, that deep, cynical sadness that swallowed a whole generation of men who came back from the war and realized the world made no sense. Eeyore expects the worst because he has seen the worst. The book came out in 1926, and it exploded. The world, still bleeding from the war, fell in love with this safe, gentle forest. But here's where the story turns tragic. The success of the book destroyed the real Christopher Robin. Daphne, the mother who didn't want to raise him, suddenly loved the spotlight. She dressed Christopher up in the outfit from the illustrations. She paraded him in front of cameras. She pushed him into interviews. She sold his childhood for applause. Christopher became the most famous child on earth. But at school, it was a nightmare. Other boys are cruel. They bullied him mercilessly. They mocked him with quotes from the book. They beat him up. Christopher grew to hate Winnie the Pooh, and he grew to hate his father. He wrote later, "My father got to where he was by climbing on my infant shoulders. He filched my good name and left me with nothing but empty fame. And Alan? He became a prisoner of his own creation. He wanted to write serious plays. He wanted to write about war, about peace, about politics. But nobody cared. They only wanted another bear story. He said, 'I feel like an artist who wanted to paint cathedrals, but was forced to paint garden gnomes for the rest of his life. He built a cage made of gold and honey, and he locked himself inside.' Christopher Robin grew up and went to war himself, World War II. He didn't speak to his parents for years. When his mother Daphne was dying, Christopher didn't come. When Alan died, there was a cold distance between them that never thawed. A wall built out of stuffed animals. Today, the original toys, the actual bear, the pig, the tiger, sit in a glass case in the New York Public Library. They look old. They look worn. The bear's eyes are almost gone. But millions of people come to see them. Why? Why does this story still hold us? Because we are all, in a way, wounded soldiers. Our lives are full of noise, stress, bad news, and fear of the future. We are all afraid of heffalumps and the dark. And we all need a place where time stops, a place where a friend is always waiting for you on the bridge to play poo sticks. A place where, even if the house falls down, your friends will just come and build you a new one. Alan Milne couldn't save himself from the ghosts of the Somme. He couldn't save his family from the toxicity of fame. But he did something else. He built a sanctuary for the rest of us. He took the mud and blood of 1916 and transmuted it into the pure gold of childhood. He proved that even if the real world is cruel, you can create a space in your mind where the sun is always shining and there is always a little something for lunch. And that is a lesson worth holding on to. We cannot erase our scars, we cannot forget our wars, but we can choose to be kind, we can choose to be gentle. As Pooh himself said, a little consideration, a little thought for others makes all the difference. I know that was a heavier story than you expected from a children's book, but sometimes the brightest light comes from the deepest shadow. Let's see if you were listening to the details. Time for the brain prime. 3 questions. Short and sharp. Question 1. Which war caused the trauma that led Alan Milne to create the 100 Acre Wood? World War I. Question 2. Who actually raised Christopher Robin while his parents were distant? His nanny. Question 3. What emotion or condition does the character Piglet likely represent? PTSD. How did you do? If you got them all, good for you. If you missed one, don't worry. Maybe you were just thinking about your own childhood bear. Do me a favor today. Find a moment of quiet. Turn off the news. Eat something sweet. And be kind to yourself. The world is hard enough without us being hard on ourselves. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We talk about what really matters here. Protect your inner forest, folks. This is Pop Pop, signing off. Bye now.